here's what I wonder is, obviously, or I don't wonder, but I'm curious about, is that, human expansion into space, whatever, it's probably going to happen eventually unless we kill ourselves before that. But how do we keep track of time? Who's right and who's wrong? I mean, everything off Earth time because it's where we came from. I don't get it. I don't know. It's confusing, and I don't like thinking about it. But
okay, hang on. I write sci-fi, and I will tell you that the whole time dilemma is the biggest problem with trying to write a story in which there's multiple planets and multiple systems involved.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
Oh, I was just to say, because in my book that my wife's editing downstairs is sci-fi also, and the whole time thing is I never mentioned any time frames ever because I don't want people to be confused by things if they're smart enough to figure it out.
Okay, hold on. To start with, whatever planet you live on, that is the calendar and the clock you use.
Yeah, I suppose.
Okay. However, in order to tell time between 2 points, then, you could use something like an atomic clock. Once you synchronize them.
You have to determine what a day is, what a month is, what a year is.
Well, you just determine a unit or so many cycles of what goes on here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's mostly my,
right.
I get your point. It's just that, say, over here on this planet, 1 hour is, or 1 day is, 4 days, and over here on this one day, so this here 1 year is 4 years, and over here, on Earth, 1 year is 1 year. So, this guy's only 1 year old, this guy's 4 years old. They've been alive the same amount of time. It's that.
Yeah, I know. Star Trek. That's why Star Trek never had clocks on the walls.
Yeah.
This is why I think it's important in science fiction to introduce concepts like standard time of some sort. And when I'm working with my universe, which is Corrales, which you're talking, about 200 inhabited planets that you're dealing with here. I should say systems, technically. So you have 200 inhabited star systems. Each of them is going to have their own time. So I had to kind of pick which one you're going to base the time on. And I thought about it when I was writing it. I'm like, crap, because you have planetary time and all this other crap. But what do you pick? And I finally came to it. There's one primary news source. The dominant news source, everything's based on the time on the planet that this news source is based on. Because that's one area where I basically gave the media the control.
Yeah. What if that news source was a space station?
Then they would just, whatever clock they run on.
I'd say. Okay. But how would they keep... I mean, I guess if they were just a stationary thing or maybe got themselves in the orbit of a star...
We'll put it this way. If they're stationary orbit of a star, you would still run on, like...
Yeah.
If here on Earth we build an international space station, it's running on Earth time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So...
No matter where you put it, it came from here, you're going to run on Earth time.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
because traveling planet to planet in that kind of setting, you simply just change your clock based on when you get there because it's time zones. It's just now it's planetary time zones you're going to.
Yeah, so you have your planetary time zone, but in terms of figuring out, all time in relation to what's your planet time in relation to that of the rest of the universe, you go back to basically the station time for the news station, and then adjust to that, and then figure out what the time for the other planet is.
Or you need that
universal frame of reference, so it's like our time is this day, this hour, but what's their time, and according to that time, this planet would be at such and such revolution of such and such year of whatever. That way, everybody gets their own independent time, but to translate to another planet's time, which it could be it'll be a totally different year and a totally different cycle and all this other stuff. So you need basically the equivalent of your atomic clock, which is news time.
Yeah. For me, my whole in my world there is no Earth. It's just humans on this other planet with no explanation why yet. But and so I can't say a year and it actually be a year. And so I've just left out measurements of time in in that regard because it just got in my own head. It was confusing and I just I didn't give specific measurements of time. Just a lot of time passed. To a degree. So that was my way around it. But then I think my wife's been going back through and changing it. So I'm just being too picky, I think. And so
I mean, okay. My wife will both tease me and applaud me for the detail level that I go into when I'm writing. There's one scene in my book in which there's reference to the kind of armor they're wearing before going on a mission, and it's a very strangely drawn-out scene, I suppose, about just simply the character going to get help getting dressed because they can't figure out how to put the armor on.
Oh, yeah.
And through this vehicle, I'm able to explain it because the armor is built in such a way that there's basically, for all intents and purposes, a hatch that you can take off when you go to the bathroom, so you don't have to completely take your armor off like you would in, like, Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
With those stupid jumpsuits. How impractical is that? And there are so many other things that it's basically they structure it like plate mail. Well, you go back to medieval times, knights peed in their plate mail because it was not easy to get off.
Uh-huh.
You don't want that in sci-fi.
No. It's not sexy at all. No matter how you try to write that. I mean, you think like the astronauts use the catheters and all that stuff. I mean, that's nothing we talk about when we're talking about how great it is to be an astronaut.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
So I mean, I go to great lengths to describe things that seem silly and mundane, but it's like, no, because somebody will ask, well, if they're wearing armor like that, how do they pee? Well, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Because, you get published, you get your name out there enough, people will ask these weird questions. Like the whole thing with the original Enterprise not having a bathroom on the entire frickin' ship.
Oh, yeah. Are you already published? Or do you not publish it?
Hang on, I'm letting the dog out. I'll be right back.
Okay, yeah.
I was rejected for being too original. I was told to write pulp for a good 10, 20 years first.
Oh, yeah? Have you thought of self-publishing yet or before?
That's failure to me.
Is it?
To me, it is.
That's
it's
just
a
plain,
personal thing.
Just plain. Oh yeah, I just think that's just plain what I'm going to do. I didn't even want to go with the traditional method because it's so archaic and if they do publish your book, they take the rights and then I don't have it. And if it doesn't sell well,
not necessarily. When you do your submission, you let them know what rights you're actually offering. However, typically they do go for generally go for full rights with the first book, mind you. I do understand that. But at the same point, that's generally, when you sell those full rights, you're still holding in arrears things like movie rights and what have you.
Yeah.
And you can also specify that at submission. But even then, there's only two publishing houses in terms of sci-fi and fantasy that will actually accept an unsolicited manuscript, and that's Baen Books and Daw. Mm-hmm. The rest of them won't even bother to look at you. Think houses like Del Rey, etc. They won't even look at you. They'll just throw you right in the garbage, essentially.
Oh yeah. Oh no, the whole idea of getting a book published traditionally is a nightmare, especially for sci-fi or fantasy. You could publish a fucking what are they called? These stupid Twilight fan fictions that are coming out in, they change the names and now they're a book that makes millions of dollars and it's like, oh my fucking god. 50 Shades of Grey, that kind of crap.
And as somebody that writes, I find that somewhat offensive on a fundamental level.
Yeah. Oh no, my wife and I sometimes when we're drunk together, we'll go read these Twilight fan fictions because they're hilariously awful.
I'm back.
But yeah,
great.
But that's the thing is, but what I was told, because the big one, I didn't actually submit it to Baen, I submitted it to Daw, and Daw Books' response, in essence, said that they basically pointed out that my work was too original, that I should write things that are more typical of the genre for a while to build an audience before trying to write the kind of things that I want to write. And then they pointed out that if you're a new author, your writing cannot be similar or equivalent to what's currently out there. It must be superior to what's out there.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit of a slap in the face as well.
Oh yeah, it's
so.
Well,
how exactly did J.K. Rowling write something that was similar to what was out there when she wrote Harry Potter, or that lady who did the whole Twilight garbage?
I don't know. Yeah, we were just.
And sorry to backtrack on the whole time thing. As soon as you step off your spaceship or whatever and step onto the alien planet, you'd start your clock at 0.
No, you just invent a new measure of time and you call them bionic dances.
No!
What would the incremental measurements be? Zazzle's story?
Oh, hang on, I did that wrong. No! Darth Vader thing.
You call them automatics and runnings and thinkings and qualify those with knots.
No, you're just simply doing it Zulu time. You're like campaign time for the military. Your clock starts when you set foot on the ground, and then it runs from there. So you don't use a calendar so much as you're just counting hours and days.
Today is automatic 12 of the month Zazzle.
Or I suppose
the 15th.
Yes. I had to get that in there again.
I say every person could have. It would be a nightmare to write, but every person could have their own personal clock.
Yeah, imagine people showing up late for work on that.
Yeah.
Actually,
that would be a nightmare in every idea of it, but that would be...
Oh, think of an abusive boss. Hey, let's get Jonesy over there. His work days are 24 hours long.
Yeah.
Now, in my case, I have an even stranger reason for going back to the notion of Iliante, the news station's time, which is that if you take a look at how gravity affects things and all this kind of stuff, I have this weird notion that there are certain anomalies, not simply black holes, but other things similar to that affect things like gravity and rotation speed and time dilation itself, so that the clock of the planet will fall out of alignment, so to speak, with the clock on other planets unless you sync it up somewhere else, because time is relative to very distortions in space-time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I go a little speculative sci-fi on that as well, obviously.
Yeah, the entire concept of time is, in my opinion, it's unbelievably hard to comprehend when you're talking on a galactic level, and these it's so complicated to get this good idea of it, for me anyway, of how I would work it, and then I just avoided it entirely. But I think my wife's adding them all in because it just translates to a reader better, I guess. I'm more like in your opinion, in that I want this super level of detail, that it's so detailed that no other person on the planet would ever be that interested in it.
Yeah. I've got a little bit of that going on, I admit. But.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a question for you. What kind of clocks do you guys use? Capitalist clocks or proletariat clocks?
The one on my computer.
No, a capitalist always shows up 5 minutes early. Proletariat shows up on time.
Okay.
Never wondered that? When you work in business, you're always told to show up 5 minutes early for an interview or a meeting or something, to always be early.
Yeah.
Their clocks are always set 5 minutes ahead.
Yeah.
But if you're like a union, like a proletariat, it's like, you said to be here for 4, I'm here for 4. Not a minute early, not a minute late.
I don't know. Sci-fi is just one of those weird things, because one thing I've noticed is that people that are, and this is a broad generalization, and I'll say it, but people that are believers tend to be less prone to enjoy things like sci-fi. Fantasy to a degree, but much less so with things like science fiction.
Yeah.
It's up the devil.
Well, yeah, because
Perhaps.
Looking forward is much harder, or much more difficult idea for believers than looking back. And you look back and you think, oh, magic and all this crap. It's in the Bible. I can, or what's it called? The reasonable suspension of reality kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they can or disbelief. There we go. Yeah.
Have
and
a
then
talking donkey in the Bible.
Yeah.
You can't read a fantasy story.
Exactly.
Hey, I'm a talking donkey.
I can read this magic, but not this magic.
It
Yeah.
took me a while to watch Shrek and actually realize the talking donkey was actually the donkey. Just think, why is there a talking donkey? Oh, that's why there's a talking donkey. I wonder if we should ask G-Man if he's ever watched Shrek.
Oh yeah.
No, it's demonic.
Or if you never watched movies that a church says are demonic. Have you ever watched Shrek? They got a talking donkey.
I mean, I want to know if G-Man thinks that magic is a real thing. I mean, that's...
No, it's friendship.
Anyway.
Prayer is magic.
He would have to believe that there's magic. The Egyptian priests use magic to copy Moses's powers.
Yeah, the first 3 plagues were, in the storybook, were copied.
Yeah. So they have to believe it's true. I mean, whether they believe it comes from Satan or not, but...
I don't know. I just wonder sometimes about the sci-fi thing, because I wonder if there's some kind of correlation between being either a non-believer or being somebody that's heavily agnostic, we'll just say, and people that are towards that atheistic side of the scale, we'll just say, and people that watch science fiction.
Mm-hmm. And then see, my brother is a believer, and I enjoy myself some science fiction. He enjoys it way more than I do, and
finally, I could sit down and read a book that doesn't talk about Jesus.
Yeah,
Could
be. He's never read that book.
It's called escapism.
Yeah. Oh, and then of course, there's always one of those things I hate running into is those. You'll run into your occasional atheist that if it's not about something real, I don't want to read it. I don't want to have any kind of imagination.
What?
You've never run into people like that are so rigid in their I'm based in reality. I don't want to imagine anything.
They won't read fiction or anything.
I only read non-fiction like the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah,
well,
just
part of that might be these guys have run around so long saying the Bible is fiction.
Yeah,
that they don't want to be criticized for reading a fiction book.
Maybe that's true.
Actually, never run into anyone like that doesn't read fiction because it's fiction.
Yeah, it's very rare that I've run into anyone like that, and they're usually people who you wouldn't imagine were reading any fiction anyway. So. Those super serious types.
I don't read a lot of fiction either, but then again, when I do read, I tend to read nonfiction because I'm reading a history book.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not more or less the I don't read it because it's not my thing. It's the I see no value in it whatsoever portion that pisses me off. So,
I've got a friend who always tried to force me to read science fiction. I borrow the books and go about a chapter or two, and it's like, this I really don't get into this.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're not going around going, well, this is stupid. This is no one.
No, some of those books were kind of stupid.
Oh, well, I know, but you're not.
Wait. That's the thing. That's kind of the point. But what Chicken said there is kind of the point. This is why when I got that letter, I was so discouraged, because pulp science fiction is crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Continue.
We would go to like a Chapters bookstore, and I'd lose him somewhere. Okay, yeah, I know where to find him. He's going to be in the science fiction fantasy area. Sure enough, there he is. And he's always going through some section of some author who's got like 20 books on the shelf. He's looking for the latest one coming out from the guy. Why do you always got to read the authors who have like 20 books?
There's some good high fantasy, but
one of the things that the whole, because I don't know if you've really followed it at all, 13, but they one of the these traditional publishing houses are losing money like crazy because everyone's self-publishing these days because the traditional method sucks and it isn't effective. There's almost no benefit to it because you have to do your own marketing, all of this stuff. There's always, of course, still people that go that direction, but then they come back through once you've already made your fan base. Once you've put out 2 or 3 books, they want to republish them on paper, reach a bigger audience, and you get to keep everything, and that's completely revolutionized the way they do things. And I guess it's good because, there's tons of crap out there. Anybody, most of these, my wife will, from time to time, download a book that the description seems amazing. And that's the only thing they spent money to have professionally done. Their editing is awful. You get 2 paragraphs in, and it's just junk. They didn't even bother to reread it or anything themselves. And it also floods the market with that crap. And so
there's a YouTube user named Orini.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to doc drop him because he's an author who's published his own book with his full name on it, and he mentions his own name on his blogs. I'll just go with Orini because that's the name he uses.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote a book called As I Walk These Broken Roads.
Okay.
And he vlogs it on his YouTube channel and on his blog and stuff. And yeah, I did a little digging on him because people were getting annoyed at some of the videos he was making on YouTube. And I discovered that his book is self-published.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what his inspiration for it all was?
What?
Fallout.
Oh, God.
It's Fallout fan fiction. All they did was take out the Guns and Mutants.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. It's I don't remember exactly which way you put it, heathens, but all these books that are coming out, like 50 Shades of Grey, that are Twilight fan fiction, and they just change the names or the vampire thing.
Well, it's okay if it's fan fiction to start with, but take what you've written, boil it down, render it down, and get away from it looking and appearing as fan fiction, where someone could pick it up and go, "That's fan fiction." Yeah.
No, I agree to a degree. Yeah, and then
I despise fan fiction.
But
general principle, I despise it because they break the rules.
Well,
my daughter's giving me a dirty look now.
What they're doing in the end is they're starting it, they're writing, and I guess there's a small part of me that has to say, okay, it's clever to a degree, that they're getting this fan base before they ever publish the book based on the fan base of the other book that they liked. And then once they publish, they're guaranteed to sell to all those people that love them. Yeah. And it's clever to a degree, but I hate thinking about it. It's so sleazy. It's piggybacking on someone else's work to make yourself seem more valid, and I hate that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got to run the down.
I understand what you're saying.
In my case, it's more that they just change all the damn rules.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have certain rules to your world, and then they go and violate all of them and create some freaking Mary Jane character that's, super epic. That, let's just say it's set in because it's an easy frame of reference, the Star Wars universe. And the first thing they do is kill the evil Emperor and knock Darth Vader through a wall and say, "Ha ha! I am here. No.
What happens is the Emperor gives everybody puppies. Darth Vader comes back to the light side. Luke and Leia get together with Darth Vader, and they go off and be a happy family again and work out all the problems that they had because they had an absentee dad.
Just as bad, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say the Emperor.
And Chewbacca gets a girlfriend and has little Wookiee babies. That's fanfic.
Well, and they throw in a Wookiee sex scene for the furries.
Well, that's what I thought he was going to say. The Emperor gives everybody blowjobs. I was like, that sounds like fan fiction.
Puppies. The main protagonist of the character, where no sexuality on any character has ever been mentioned in the story. Yeah, and as you read through this, why is everybody gay?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
I was just trying to make it more fan fiction-y, so.
Yeah.
The Emperor gives everybody puppies.
I mentioned earlier, sometimes my wife and I will get drinking and we'll go read a really bad Twilight fan fiction because they're just hilariously awful. The thing that got us started doing that was some obscure friend of my wife's once posted something on Facebook, and the thing she posted was, got my burgundy lipstick and my fuck me heels and my sheath dress on, gonna go write my first chapter of my new fan fiction. So a couple days later, we said, okay, we have to check this out. We're drunk enough to do this. Not 2 paragraphs in, got my burgundy lipstick and my fuck me heels and my sheath dress on, and we're thinking, oh my God, Mary Jane, you bitch. It was, I mean, it was literally right there, staring her in her own face, and she doesn't have a clue because we had to go after her on it. We were drunk, mean.
Yep.
But, oh yeah. And it's like, it is not me. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a reason. There's a reason why we criticize the lack of originality.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's one thing if you want, like, we'll pick on Star Wars here since we're already on it. Probably everyone here knows enough about it.
Oh.
It's one thing if you want to write fan fiction, and does anybody here remember Empire Strikes Back when they're on Cloud City and everyone's evacuating and you got the guy running with the ice cream maker under his arm? It's an ice cream maker, okay? There's no lies about it, even admit it's an ice cream maker. Okay? If you want to write fan fiction about that guy, you know, and what he does on the Bespin Cloud City station here.
Yeah.
You know, or about people on Bespin.
Yeah.
Go right ahead. You're not breaking the rules so much.
Well,
Don't write about Darth Vader.
Exactly.
You don't get to do that.
Exactly it. Yeah.
You know.
And that's where me and my wife disagree. And I guess, you know, she was saying that, or we were having this disagreement last night over what fan fiction is, because she was noticing differences in the way these people write. You know, these people that don't use the vampires or whatever that we were reading, because we were doing this last night when we were drunk. Are they really writing fan fiction? And I said, yeah, I suppose so. Or I don't know. They're using the characters and, you know, and back and forth. Well, and then in the same breath, I'm explaining to her, you know, the one I used was Mass Effect. But sort of the same thing. If I wrote about other characters in that universe, which, of course, that universe is huge, and it's got all this detail to it, it's so easy to write. It would have been so, or would be so easy to write a fan fiction based in that universe, not even speaking about the main characters or anything from the games or whatever. And but then when you think, then I had to concede the point that when you think Twilight, and if you're thinking fan fiction, no, you can't just write about that universe. Otherwise, all you got is Earth with sparkly vampires. It's weak.
Yeah, pretty
There's
much.
no universe to it. So, but yeah, I had to concede her point that on my side, yes, my argument was valid and hers was too. So, you know.
I think
but at the same point, you know, those characters. The thing is, my viewpoint is.
Continue.
Chicken.
My nephew's old enough now. He's always wanted to go as a vampire for Halloween. I think I'm getting some Dracula teeth and a little bottle of glitter.
Oh man. Okay.
Just to screw with people when they show up at the door.
My thing is that, in general, my universe is my property.
Oh yeah.
Even now, my universe grew out initially out of a space combat game, then through into a role-playing game, and then eventually into novel forms. And I know my universe very well. And people look at me funny when I say this. I have 40,000 years worth of history. Now, granted, most of that's vague prehistory, and I will qualify that. But I have massive amounts of history for my universe, and I don't really like people messing around too much in my universe. Now, there are certain areas in which it's okay, but if you start getting near my empires and my characters, get out. Get out of my universe, go find your own.
Yeah.
And that's
like
really the way I kind of look at it.
There. Being in the universe is one thing, but don't touch the main characters in the main storyline. Go create your own.
Well, yeah.
You can use the universe, but you just don't influence it.
Yeah, and especially when you write it that way, and in a universe, you know, that is freestanding enough that you can write other characters that have nothing to do with the main plot of whatever, you know, or the original work was. Yeah. You also can't really publish that and call it your own.
Pretty much.
So that works. I mean, I don't have a problem with that at all.
With Star Wars, it becomes the non-canonical or canonical after stories and thoughts.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But again, you might have to get permission from Lucas.
Yeah. one of the ones
there are people who do write books like that for Star Wars.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, they're always coming out, and they contradict each other, and sometimes.
As long as the author doesn't contradict the author, one author to another author, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
one of the things that was impressive, they did. It was a game. It was Star Wars Force Unleashed, and it was a LucasArts production.
Yeah.
And what they did with it was the story of Darth Vader's secret apprentice between the third movie and the original movie. That Darth Vader tried to overthrow the Emperor and failed, basically.
I like how you put that, between the third movie and the original.
yeah, I know. Or I mean, yeah, but between the third in sequence and the fourth in sequence, I guess. But yeah, but they it was his secret apprentice, and they tried to overthrow the Emperor together and failed. And essentially what happens is this story ends up leading to the founding of the Rebel Alliance in the end anyway. And, it all tied in perfectly. There weren't, well, I wouldn't say there weren't any inconsistencies, but, it was well done. And it was a good tie-in between the two things. But, usually when I run into stuff like that, I'm just kind of annoyed. I don't like inconsistencies, but I think the whole idea of fan fiction that we sort of came up with is kind of the way I see it. It should be done. Don't fuck with the original work. Don't screw with the characters. Don't steal. I don't like the idea of stealing somebody else's universe. But if you can't make money off of it anyway, because obviously you're stealing somebody else's universe. But stealing characters, especially for me, and I write very character-driven.
Myself as well.
Yeah, stealing my characters would be a kick in my nuts. Hell no,
Especially when they start killing them off or making them do things that are so outside. Because nobody can. It's okay. Back to role playing for a moment. You don't let somebody else play your role playing characters.
Yeah,
it's kind of the same thing with your characters in your books. It's just you don't do that. Especially because you're going to inevitably get them killed or screw them up in some way or another, and suddenly they start doing things that just don't make sense.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. You were going to say something, Headless?
No, the kind of fan fiction I'm talking about is the more rabid fan fiction that doesn't get published.
Oh yeah.
And it's all because I tend to hear of it from people I know who are into the anime and manga.
Oh yeah, I know there's a lot of that out there.
Oh yeah, and they wind up having these crossover genre fanfics, and this person, and for some reason they're always sexual.
Yeah, I don't know why people just don't have sex enough or something.
Can't you just write a normal story about these characters? No, you gotta have sex.
Yeah, and
these are people that watch anime. That's the closest they get to a woman.
I watch anime.
Sorry.
And
then when you actually find out who these characters are, it's like, oh well, that character is actually married to this other character. So why are they doing all? Oh, it's because you want them to do it. This is not fan fiction. This is your fantasy. Fiction.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and that's exactly the kind of crap I hate. Well, I hate the idea of merging things together that don't really fit. Although sometimes it works. I guess but. The whole sexual aspect of all these that happens, that seems to be everything in fan fiction these days.
Yeah, come on, there's people out there who write My Little Pony fan fiction. It's referred to as clopper porn.
Oh god.
Oh.
That's all it fucking is. You can't just write a fucking goddamn fanfics about these fucking little horses. No, it's got to be sexual within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's not just sexual, it's the disgusting, gross side of sexual on the internet.
Yeah. Oh, God. What was it? My wife, I think she read 50 Shades of Grey, not knowing what it was. And,
you're decorating for dogs?
Yeah. And so she gets in there somewhere. I think she was telling me, she comes to me. Have you ever seen, by the way, have you guys ever seen the video of Gilbert Gottfried reading 50 Shades of Grey?
Oh, come here, cat. I got you. Finally, I caught you.
No, but that would be hilarious.
Hi, Gilbert Godfrey. I'm here to read 50 Shades of Grey.
That'd be horribly funny.
It's pretty short, but it is very funny. Hold on, let me see if I can find it.
Oh my God, they're doing what? Who wrote this?
Hey, Womble came on. Let's not invite her. Not to this conversation.
Yeah, she'll probably correct us. I beg to differ, but 50 Shades of Grey is an absolutely wonderful book.
Hey, I wouldn't want to insult Womble like that. Oh, man. Oh, I think my eyes are tearing up here. Okay. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, but
there's a link to the thing. There's all ads all over that page, but whatever. It's pretty funny. It's Gilbert Godfrey reading 50 Shades of Grey, and his voice is just the most amazing thing, and he gets all into it and dramatic and shit.
Oh man.
But she was reading it, and she comes down and after having read this,
I have to point out, if I post this video, I will not be posting that link, but people are welcome to Google it. However, I may want to discourage this for good measure. But anyway, continue.
Yeah.
Just as a side note, if you're going to Google it, Google Gilbert Gottfried reads 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
And then click video on Google, and you'll find it.
Yeah. But anyway, it's
No.
oh god. She comes down. She's telling me this crap, or oh my god, you have to see the way this person wrote. I don't know how this was ever published. It's awful. And something about pinching a clit, which that's a no-no, right? I mean,
but depends on the person,
I guess.
And how hard.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go get on the sock account now and go ask Lacey Green that.
Oh. Come on.
But she's going on about all this stuff, how terrible that book is. Oh, but it was, and my wife, when she reads a book, she reads a book. I mean, she'll read 2 books a day, but novel-wise, if she wants to. And so I think there's 3 of those, and she had them finished in a day and a half or whatever. And she said, I couldn't put them down. They were so awful. I'm going to burn them. So we got a barrel, and we did. Oh.
So, yeah, I decided incidentally after getting my rejection letter that I was going to try and write pulp. So I picked out one character that had a cameo role that I threw in there just for the sake of a friend of mine who's unfortunately passed now. Mm-hmm. And I decided to base the entire story around this character. His start and this and that. Now, to give you an idea of how cheesy the start of this is and how ridiculous the character is. He is of the mighty Karzan, a mighty and brave warrior race. He is about 9 foot tall, felinoid in nature, tiger-striped and leopard-spotted at the same point. He grows up to be the great pirate king, Baron Deloric. Spacefaring pirate king at that.
Uh-huh.
So I started writing. This is my sellout piece. This is my attempt at cheese. It came out really it's coming out really fucking good, and now I'm like, God damn it, I gotta come up with something else. If I could make this a decent story, I'm lost. And worse yet, I had a couple people listen to the parts of the read that I'd done of it, and they're like, dude, you're a furry? I'm like, fuck!
No, it's just an anthropomorphic tiger leopard. So you're a furry.
Fuck it, I give up.
No, it's just a guy who's like part tiger, part leopard, so you're a furry.
People ask Phantom Lion that all the time. I feel bad for him.
Dude, Phantom Lion's a furry. He's a furry.
He's awesome, man.
He's a furry.
No,
he's got the frickin' whip tail.
So then I go on for the hell. Anyway. For the hell of it, I go on the Bane Writers Workshop with this thing, which I was, as I said, it was actually turning out pretty good. And I get a number of comments from this woman named Edith Myers. And she is the person in charge of their short story division, and she'll go through and comment on things. And she's... I'm not going to use the words that describe her properly, let's just say that. So, she has all these varied commentaries. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about a character that grows up to be the great pirate king kind of thing. And his idea of what a pirate is based upon books that he's read that are these ancient Terran books about pirates. You know, the fantasized pirates, the romantic novels about pirates, this kind of thing. So he's acting accordingly. Has a huge freaking ego and all this other stuff. And what's her first comment? He talks too much. And I'm thinking, yeah, of course he does. He's like hyper flamboyant. That's the character, you dipshit!
Main character! The main character doesn't talk, no one knows what the hell's going on.
That needs a POV character for the majority of it. It's like, what the hell? But yeah, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's not just me. You're complaining that the main character talks too much. And that the other characters have to go out of their way to shut him up periodically so they can get a word in edgewise. Okay, maybe he's modeled a little after me.
I stepped away, so I'm not sure what's going on.
40mm Phantom Lion is a furry.
Whatever, I don't care.
He just can't afford a good mask. Okay.
No, I was commenting that... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, he's dropped enough hints in other calls I've been with him in, even though he hates me and doesn't know who I am for some reason.
It's all good.
I've watched him like pick out pants and clothes and stuff for his character, Phantom Lion, and try to get gloves that have skeletal bones on them. I've even like picked out better looking ones for him, and I've seen the websites that you can go to make the mask, and sure enough, there's the Phantom Lion mask he currently has. You can buy it. Because when he had it made, the people who made it for him, and it's still there in their catalog.
No, RJ, I was making the comment that I went to workshop it on Bane Books. This woman, Edith Myers, who's in charge of their short story division, complained that the exceptional flamboyant, eventually destined to become, the spacefaring pirate Captain Baron Warwick, that he talked too much.
The main
that was her primary complaint, is that the main character talks too much.
Was that her whole comment? Because that'd have been like a real constructive comment. Fuck off.
Yeah.
There were a couple comments. I don't remember the rest of them. That was the one that was like, what, really?
This is where then you tell her, but this is only book 1 of a 10-book series. For the next 3 books, the captain has laryngitis.
Oh, man.
Making up for the fact that he talks too much in this one.
Well, I have a question for you, 13 Heathens.
Yeah.
Do you mentioned it with this character you're writing this whole book about, this ancillary character from before. Do you ever come up with one of those characters that's supposed to, be very one-dimensional for a very small point in time, and then they become a huge character?
Actually, I have a character that, okay, whenever you run into some kind of book or whatever, you always have that one stupid character that they're the best whatever. We all run into them at some point, and we all inevitably use somebody along those lines. And I had one character that was supposed to be, like the ultimate assassin kind of thing. Yeah. Not supposed to have any depth. They were supposed to basically be an occurrence. So there was something that happened more than a character. Well, that character, by this point, has a family. They have a daughter that's running a small corporation. They've gone into retirement. They were viciously attacked at one point, and part of their initial body's been replaced by cybernetics. They have to go in for maintenance on the nano machines that keep the cybernetics from being rejected by their body and all this other stuff, and that the government keep them in line. There's this whole lore built around this character that was supposed to just be a character that was a threat, so to speak, that lingered in the air of, we've heard a rumor that so-and-so is coming to the planet.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. See, because I've got several of them that started as similar ideas. Oh, this character is my clever way of getting this done, and then they turn into this, one of your favorites or something to that, something that's so in such depth that it's ridiculous.
Well,
But yeah, all the good ones
yeah.
start that way for me anyway.
This particular character actually turned out to be a little bit of a tragic character because he can't go someplace without some idiot trying to take him out. And he's so good at what he does, and because of his nature, because he's what's referred to as a null, meaning that the mystical forces, the magic forces in Corrales don't work on him.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have somebody that they're a psionicist, or they're using mystrionics, which is the equivalent of magic, or whatever, and they're going, straining their head, and he's looking at him like, that's not going to work on me, just go home, you can't kill me, just leave. And they're like, no, we're going to get you, and he's like, please don't make me hurt you. But we want to be number one, please just stop, go home, rethink your life, go.
Yeah.
And in the end, he's going to kill them.
How have you handled the idea of magic? Is it sort of a technological magic, or is it a manipulation of physics, or what do you do exactly?
I have three forms of it. One is Kobatomj. Kobatomj is the varied aliens have their own forms of it, of course, but Kobatomj is basically the equivalent of martial arts as it never truly existed.
Okay.
Meaning that lore of martial arts and being able to control your body to such a high degree. Now, the lower level abilities like heightened senses and this and that, those are easy to do, but if you want to do the higher levels of it that allow you to essentially break some or bend some laws of physics, then you need to be using the combat drug ambrosia. And it has to be combat grade or it won't work. Then I have the psionic abilities, and there are very different kinds of that usage. There's the empaths, there's your telepaths, then the very rare, your true psionicists that can do things like melt your frickin' brain. And then I have mystrionics. Now, mystrionics is more like your classical fantasy world magic. And I just couldn't bring myself to use the word magic because it's goofy. It conjures up images of stage magic, so I had to separate it out, so I called it mystrionics. Use mysticism as the root. And this allows you to bend the laws of physics. However, there is a mineral that is found in deep space, it's actually a form of dark matter that is called mystrium. And if you do not have mystrium within the atmosphere on the planet that you're on, it won't work. The other, of course, thing is you could carry a bit of mystrium with you, but it's something that's so linked with the creation of the universe and that first seed, so to speak, that it allows you to warp the rules because it's connected with the other realities.
Okay.
And that's how I tackled that one.
I say you certainly have very in-depth knowledge of your stuff so far. Yeah.
There's also
Go ahead, if you got another one.
There's also the fourth talent, which is hardly ever referenced, and it comes in, and it's considered to be extremely rare, which is cyberpathy, which is the flip side of psionics, that you can deal with machinery instead of people.
Oh, yeah.
But somebody that's psionic and somebody that has the cyberpathy can't. There's no way to communicate there. If one tried to go into the brain of the others, their brain would be fried because they don't think that way.
Yeah. So I haven't tackled mine in writing yet, but because basically what I did was I sat down and I just wrote. Last year, in my spare time, I just spent most of the year writing. Whenever I had whatever time, and I wound up with what was it? I had like 175,000 word manuscript at that point, which would never be able to be published for a first-time author. And I could never afford to have edited professionally. Yeah. So I went and I chopped it into 3 pieces and wrote out the first part. And, of course, left some of the mystery. And, I don't want to answer all the questions in the first book. So, but I haven't nailed down specifically what I'm doing with my idea of magic yet and how I'm working it. But I've considered. I've got some ideas out there trying to figure out exactly what to do with it. Bought myself some time. So, but yeah.
Well, at least that's not nearly as bad as my first book.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How long,
give a wild guess as to the page count.
God, what? I'm thinking 400 plus.
698.
Oh, geez, yeah.
And that's the that's the literal page count.
Uh-huh. And is that double or single spaced and whatnot?
No.
No?
It's, actually, I think I had the half in there because I'd last formatted it so a friend could read it.
Oh, yeah.
So it only has an extra half between its 1.5. But yeah, it's absurd.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Double space is even worse. It was like 800 double space. It was horrible.
Oh, yeah. No, I did. I realized it. It's that final period. Boom. There we go. And of course, I wasn't even done with the story. I just said, okay, that's a good place to end a book.
Yeah.
And then said, oh, shit. This is too long. And so I end up chopping that into 3 pieces, which is going to get, cut down into 2. There's no way I can turn, that amount of story into 3 books. It just, there are unimportant things that just, you need to be condensed.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I chopped the first one in half, or the first part of it off, and then elongated it because it didn't stand alone either. I mean, of course. So yeah, that was of course another couple months.
Well, the thing is, I'd be sitting at like a Denny's or something working on some editing, because and I have these folders next to me, and I'm like, oh, what you doing? I'm like, because when you're sitting there alone at a place like that, people tend to ask questions. You'll get some people looking at them like, you're obviously weird. But when you have all this paper out in front of you, they're like, oh, I wonder what they're doing. So people will ask. And I get people coming, oh, well, what are you working on? Oh, I'm working on editing my book. I've been working on a book too. And I just look at them, I'm like, really? Have you?
Yeah.
I got 75 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, usually not.
No.
75 pages at this point would impress me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Usually it's, oh yeah, I'm 5,000 words into mine. How far are you into yours? And I just would stop and I'd look at them and say, 300,000.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it was nice to meet you. I'll see you later.
5,000 words is my first chapter. I mean,
Yeah.
that's nothing.
How many pages would 5,000 words be?
Oh, about 10.
Wait. If you're actually going double space standard page size, it's multiples of 250.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
The 250.
It's considered to be 250
So that's
per page. So I'd have to bring up a calculator because I'm not going to bother to do math right now. But yeah, it's like 20 pages or something.
Yeah, it's 20. I was thinking 500 words a page, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But it's it's a long chapter for being full page size. So, but yeah, 5,000 words is nothing. I mean, I've written that in a day.
I've written that in a couple. If you're on a roll, you can write it in a couple hours. Hell.
Yeah. I say if you're really going on, which never happens to me, because for me everything was stop every 15 seconds to look something up and do a little research. So.
Yeah. How's this? How do you guys deal with continuity if you write one book and then want to keep writing another book? How do you keep your continuity errors out?
Know your universe.
Yeah, I would say that's kind of the thing. I mean, no, at least have an idea of where you're going. For me, I mean, I've written, from my point of view, like the things I've not really nailed down yet.
Well, even the subtle continuity errors, like a character's middle initial or a birth date.
Oh, things like that.
Things like that, like the small details that kind of just get forgotten.
Yeah.
You want to know the truth?
Yeah.
I have character sheets for every one of them.
I was going to say that I know someone who did write a book and actually got it legitimately published, not self-published.
Uh-huh.
And they were actually worried about that. If they had to write a second book, what would they do? And I told them simple, because they're a bit OCD. They don't want to have continuity errors if they can avoid it. Because we actually talked about it on a TV show where continuity errors are all throughout a series of books that the show is based on, and they're actually kind of funny, but they're also irrelevant to worry about.
Oh yeah.
So what I told them to do is, you sit down, you write your character on a page in a notebook. Because well, what happens if I change a detail? Well, simple. Write it out in pencil. Once you use it, fill it in pen.
Mm-hmm.
That way, if the detail changes, you fill it in pen with the new detail.
I have to change headsets. So give me a moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you would go back and refer to these old characters and want to mention their middle initial again, you go back and say that, oh, I've never mentioned it because it's in pencil.
Mm-hmm.
So if it was a J and I wanted it to be an M, because it makes more sense to be an M now, well, then I can change it.
Yeah, yeah.
But you have that detail written out ahead of time.
Yeah, very, very comprehensive characters is kind of the way I build them. I mean, they are who they are, and they don't often change much.
Yeah.
Only the way the story affects them changes them in my ending.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
well, when you get people like I can't remember the lady who wrote them. It's the Secret Diary of Adderley Mold, or Adrian Mold.
Oh yeah.
Okay, that whole series of books.
Mm-hmm.
There are continuity errors of like where someone lived, or their birth date, or a middle initial, or who their mom's name was. And quite frankly, nobody reads this stuff for continuity errors. You're lucky if someone actually read all these books and remembers this shit. Okay, but when you're dealing with someone who has a little bit of OCD, that kind of stuff sticks out to them.
It drives me crazy when things don't make sense. Yeah.
Especially if they had to create that problem themselves.
Just to prevent that kind of thing, there was one section that I had to work out the actual logistics of how a entire planetary system worked, just to make sure I didn't have any continuity errors. And I had, by the time I was done, like 10 pages just defining just that, which I ended up putting in a file. But in terms of things like character background, keep in mind, in my case, this grew to some degree out of a role-playing game, so I have character sheets with skills and abilities and all this other stuff, and I write out full character sheets for every single character I put in there, even some of the minor ones.
Does anybody here know Ed Greenwood? He created the Forgotten Realms for Dungeons & Dragons.
Oh, right.
I'm familiar with those series.
He also writes books as well. Okay. He has a stack of boxes in his basement that would form a 6x6x6 cube.
And I believe it.
You want butterflies? You want trees? It's in there.
Yeah.
Because he also used to write articles for Dragon Magazine. And literally he would just go down there and pull some, I need an article this month. This month's article is butterflies.
I mean, the thing is, there's always some things that are going to sneak through, and they're always going to be really silly minor details.
Yeah.
Things that no author remembers, but the fans, all of them seem to. That kind of thing. Those are the hilarious
and you
moments.
answer those questions when you get asked with first, how old are you? You do realize the target demographic of my book was how old? Why do you care?
I can't read D&D books after reading Weiss and Hickman. Fuck, they're such bad authors.
Dude, I can't read any kind of book based on a role-playing game or war game.
Well, everybody's like, have you read Weiss and Hickman? They're so great. It's like, yes, and they're horrible.
I don't know, give me time, I might be able to... hang on, give me time, Chicken, I might be able to change your mind on that. Go ahead.
Right. You have the floor, Heathen.
Oh, okay. I realized I interrupted. There's a little bit of a lag, so I didn't realize I was interrupting until you were partway through.
And then you can change my mind. You either get really big authors that everyone loves, or you get that really crappy author that everyone loves. I've read a few. I play a lot of Warhammer 40k.
And I paint a lot of Warhammer 40k.
Yeah. So, how much of the background, or will piss off... I forget who it was. We'll just piss off one of the creators of the whole thing. We'll just call it fluff. How much of the fluff or background do you know?
Quite a bit.
Yeah. So when I sit down and I read some book, and I'm not going to pick on the Horus Heresy series, okay? Because that kind of storyline does change no matter who's telling it. But I read some background on it, and I'm reading this going, that makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, it's all right.
Doesn't make any sense. No, doesn't. And I could sit there with a fucking pen and go through it and go through it and go through it.
Well, every time they redo the codexes, they even retcon stuff. So how do you?
See, that's why I say I'm not going to worry about the Horus Heresy series of books that they wrote with Black Flag, because that's a series unto itself. Then you have each edition of 40k. You get a sense of what's supposed to happen with each retcon they do. Okay? I don't try to mash them all together and make one continuous thing out of it. It doesn't work. Okay?
Right.
But I've tried reading some other books, like this is very early on when they were still starting up. I read the Space Wolf book, and I just couldn't get through the damn thing.
The Gaunt's Ghost series is actually pretty good.
Yeah. A friend tried giving me the... Oh, what was it? The one about Schaefer's Last Chancers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm reading this thing as the guy gets off the platform and takes the elevator, and they describe this burned-out bulb in the elevator's light system, and it tells you what floor you're on, how a tech priest has... No, tech priests don't fix light bulbs. Okay? Tech priests are walking around with holy ointments and stuff, blessing tanks and starships. And tapping the runes of activation to make these things work. They don't change light bulbs. It's some of the authors who write for it just kind of flip through a book and go, oh, that's the name of this guy, and then add it in. It's, no, did you just leave that part blank and say, add appropriate name here? And I found them very clumsy and very difficult to get through.
That's what happens when you hire an author that's not familiar with the universe to write for that said universe.
No, actually, the ones who are not familiar with it are actually somewhat better because they don't know the rules. They don't know the mechanics of the game. So when they describe a bolt gun firing, they just describe bolt gun firing. You don't hear the dice rolling.
Yeah.
You know?
I guess it just depends on... There's so many authors that write those books. It's like,
Oh, I know.
It's so hit and miss.
Yeah. I know, I picked up one lately, The Emperor's Mercy or Emperor's Fury by Henry Zhu. It wasn't that bad. I managed to actually get through it. He didn't make so many mistakes that it stuck out at me. But I could see the dice rolling.
Come on. 4 6s.
Yeah. It's like you're reading, you go, damn, he rolled a 1.
Yeah.
And that was a plasma pistol he fired, and he failed his armor save.
Yeah, I was trying to go through terrain with my rhino. God damn it.
Or they're driving in one of these little Centaur artillery tractors. And apparently it tops at a set speed. Well, I got a set of books here from Forge World that have that model listed in it with all its stats, and yeah, sure enough, there's the top speed. Okay, at least he did some research. You know, got that right. But knowing the Chaos Marine is actually running after it, matching its speed and catching up, takes a swipe at it and rips a chunk out of the armor. It's like, yeah, that was a critical hit. You know, I just saw the dice rolling in the damn thing.
Did he have a power fist? Because if he did...
I couldn't remember. I honestly could not remember if it had a power fist on or not. Then they find one of the Imperial cruisers that had apparently crashed during a battle on the planet's surface. As I'm reading this thing, they're going in, they finally realize that this thing is a ship. It's like, these things are fucking 5 miles long. You would not identify that as a ship laying on the ground once it's been mostly buried over by dirt and jungle and other debris. You would recognize that as just being a large hill.
Especially from my point of view, if it's heavy, obviously it's going to, you know, crush itself as it falls. It's not going to look like a ship either.
Yeah,
it's going to be a pile.
They never described how it actually crashed. It was just landed. But these things are built in space. They don't really have landing gear.
Yeah, well, it's what they did. Sort of the same thing in Mass Effect. You know, the bigger ships they don't go on a planet. They'll be torn apart by gravity. You know, they're too heavy, they're too thick. They're, you know, and it's physics. I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, that's one of the things I appreciate.
As soon as you hit get in too close to a planet, you break your back with the gravity. Because you're simply not large enough and structurally sound in order to stand up to the pull.
It's like trying to build the Ark out of wood.
You break your back on the waves. Yeah, and I'm not even sure if a 5-mile long ship would do it.
Okay, let me cut in here now that I have something up here. In any case, with my writing with my secondary characters, partially when I want to keep it a little bit more random or keep it truer to form, what I'll do is I will roll dice periodically to determine the outcome of certain events with secondary characters. But I don't exactly write it like I rolled a die per se.
Yeah, you're using it to get yourself over the hump of, well, what should happen? I want to keep some action here. How do I do this? Well, let's see. Right, and you'll fake the outcome to get what you want, but it's to write that battle scene.
Yeah, and in this case of this one battle scene, I wrote out the roles for all the characters as I was going through and doing it, and then I went through and just said, okay, here's the outcome. I've written out everything. I know what happens to who, how badly everyone's injured. Then I wrote it.
Yeah. Yeah, but what I say by hearing the dice roll, it's when you read it and you say, okay, there's some D&D books that are bad for this. The mage casts a fireball. The room's already been described by its rough size, so that therefore, before you even get to the point about somebody in the party getting hit by it, you know they are, because you know how big a fireball is and how much damage it does, and sure enough, that's exactly what happens.
Ah, gotcha.
Okay? Because the guy's using the actual game mechanics to write his story, and he's not hiding the fact. You know, just, even if it does work out that way, you can ignore a little bit of it.
Well, the thing is also, if your mage isn't necessarily your POV character, you don't need to state what spell he's casting, only that he's chanting.
Yeah, but then in the end, as you go through the whole description, the big ball of fire erupts in the room and stuff. That's, it's a fireball. Okay. And as you read through it, you realize that so-and-so made a saving throw, so-and-so didn't, someone took damage. It's... And it engulfed and filled the entire room, so the room was this big. That's
I don't know.
Seeing the dice roll or hearing the dice roll in the book is for some authors, it's hard to hide.
Yeah, I can understand that. And the thing is, realistically, if you're going to write something, and I certainly do this, because I'm writing something that in part has a game system at its core. So when I'm writing, my writing doesn't have to necessarily match my own system.
Yeah.
You have to have a bit of creative license there, otherwise you just botch it.
Yeah.
Well, if you try to write it, it's like if you try to write it. Well, what you were just talking about, Headless. You describe the size of the room. The brain of the game player immediately goes to what would be the best attack to use in this room: a fireball. This what's
going to happen.
Enough,
you do. And sure
exactly.
enough, the ball fills the exact dimensions of the room.
Yeah.
Trying.
It's like when an author does that, they're trying to draw, the person who plays the game into, I'm in on this, and then it just makes it get out of that bowl, you bitch. Sorry, cat.
I was going to say that better be a cat you're talking to.
Yeah. It just makes it predictable, and it isn't. Well,
Yeah.
It's not like watching a movie and seeing, Lou Ferrigno do a cameo in the Hulk movie. It's not fun like that. It's just predictability when it comes to that. I've never enjoyed it.
It becomes predictable, and you lose the sense of the detachment and the sense of fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because all of a sudden it's like, I know how this works. I don't even have to read the rest of the chapter. Sure enough, I was right. Because you know how it's going to play out.
Yeah, and I try to stay away from that as much as possible. I actually at some points have tried to go to great lengths to foreshadow incorrect directions. In that novel I was referring to earlier, there's a huge to-do made out of the fact that this, the super assassin is going to the planet. Oh no, we're screwed. We're in so much trouble. And come to find out later, oh no, he doesn't go after kids. It's part of his code. He will not go after children. Oh, so he's there for other reasons. Okay. But you throw that in there so that people are like, "Oh, this is going to happen later." No, it doesn't.
No. Yeah,
And sometimes that can add more to the story because you're dealing with the assumptions of the characters in the story, which don't necessarily reflect the reality of the situation.
Yeah, the false foreshadowing. I do things like that too. Or other things I've done is build character for characters based on the assumption of the point of view character. Mm-hmm. And of course that be completely wrong and him feel like an idiot later for thinking so. I mean, that's always fun. Mm-hmm. Because I had no idea what was actually going on back then, and now that I'm reading it through the second time, this is much more interesting kind of thing. So
I also like breaking the rules anyway around it, though.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when you're writing a book in which your POV character has essentially a second soul within them, and part of the story is trying to figure out where the hell it came from. And then what you can do is you can effectively kill the POV character and still continue the story. Mm-hmm. Because at that point, it's the secondary soul that's telling the story. And people are like, wait a minute, how can you kill your POV character 2/3 of the way through the book? Because I can.
Yeah.
It's because you're a good author, you're not attached to a character.
Oh, that's the big one that my wife got me on that one. Because, I hate when an author gets attached to the characters and they won't kill them. Even when the story needs something, it's just more, everybody just barely got through alive. Oh, everybody just barely got through alive again. Look at that. Oh, this time they did much better, but someone got hurt. Oh, no. No one cares. At
the same point, killing off characters can also be formulaic, too.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't...
It's like in Star Wars when Obi-Wan dies.
Yeah.
Okay, that sets up later in the story.
Mm-hmm.
However, though, when the Millennium Falcon is being chased by the giant space worm and Leia screams, "We're all going to die," no, we're not. We have 5 of the main characters aboard this ship right now.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Family Guy did that in their Star Wars thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
well, that was the whole point. It's hero armor.
Yeah.
You've got 5. You're not going to die. You got 5 of the characters on the same ship. Come on.
Yeah.
And they're going to make it through the asteroid field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why Song of Fire and Ice was so good. I'm not talking about the HBO version. I'm talking about the actual books, because he was not afraid to kill off characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that? Is that kind of like what is it? Game of Thrones?
It is Game of Thrones.
Oh, it is? Yeah. I didn't know what the other name for it. To me, there it almost sounds like the guy kept running himself into a corner. And damn it, I gotta kill somebody off now. Damn it, damn it.
Yeah, for me, I've always, I will write, let's see, one of my chapters where I killed off main characters, I wrote it like 5 I wrote the chapter like 5 different ways, killing different characters, doing different things, having different outcomes, all this stuff, because I just couldn't pick, or I needed to pick the best one. I didn't, and what's the future going to be without this character? What's going to affect the reader the most? Do I want to go with a character that people don't necessarily like? Do I want to go with one people will probably like a lot? Do I want them to care at all? It was a nightmare. It took me weeks to write just 5 or 6 pages.
And the thing is, you also can't go over the top of the death scene either.
No.
That'll eject the reader right out of it.
Yeah, and it was also at the same time, the way I ended up going with it was more of a whoa, what just happened kind of thing. Something you don't see coming, and it's not this elongated I'm dying.
Exactly. It's just
hear
bang.
My last words. Yeah, it's just bang. And of course, that's what I went with, when I finally decided on it, was holy shit, did that just happen? No, there's no way. Let me read that again, And then, of course, it's a
I've really
moment.
pissed off my wife on several occasions. Mm-hmm. And one of them is with a sequel to the first book that I haven't even started working on yet, that my wife's already pissed because she knows what happens in it.
Oh.
Because she knows that her favorite character dies.
That's what... because I never had asked my wife who's your favorite character or whatever. And so when I killed this specific character, she comes downstairs and flings because I had printed it off for her, flings it at me. Fuck you.
Yeah, I got a little bit of that.
And I was like, hold on. You're gonna be okay. Don't
yeah,
worry about it.
I had to explain to my wife why the character needed to die, why it was important to the central plot, and she's like, I understand it, but I'm still not happy with you. Go sleep on the couch.
Yeah. Exactly.
You actually had to sleep on the couch for killing a character off in your own story.
Yep. Because it was my wife's favorite.
On the couch for dumber reasons.
Yeah. So then I'm sitting there working on this one with the damn cats.
All right.
I'm just going to call it the one with the damn cats.
You know what that means now? The day that story gets published, and you actually become a famous author, and you get to sit on some little talk to the author panel, and someone bitches you out for that character dying. You have to stand up and grab the mic and say, listen, I had to sleep on the couch for that fucking character dying. Now leave me alone.
I probably would, knowing me.
I paid for my
No one will
time.
understand what the hell you just said.
So I'm working on the second one, and I sit there and go through, and of course a lot of this is die rolls. There's this huge fight scene. There's several scenes after that, and then the Cubs have to complete their rite of passage, and I stopped writing, and my wife's like, I want to know what happens, and I looked at her and I said, Korak's going to die. And she goes, you can't kill Korak. I like Korak. He's a great character. I love that character. And I said, this is why I'm not writing. I'm trying to figure out if there's a way I can save him. She goes, oh, okay. Well, then stop writing. Take all the time you need.
Just use the Tinkerbell effect. Clap your hands. There you go.
No, he was so injured in that damn fight that he's going to die once he gets into the arena and has to do...
Tinkerbell drank poison.
Poor Korak's going to die. There's no option. I can't find a way out of it. I've been trying to write a way out of it. But short of him pussing out and deciding, I'll finish next year, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
So I've been avoiding the couch.
Yeah, it was one of those sobering moments when I'm sitting there and you come to that realization, oh crap, this character needs to die. This one that I really like, I really enjoy writing for, I had huge plans for, they're going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because after a while the story takes over a little bit and starts dictating to the author.
Oh yeah. And you realize, if I want to get this character here, and if I want to get this character here, and if these guys are going to interact in this way, this character's never going to work in the future. Or, they need motivation, and this character is their motivation, and that kind of thing. Or in some instances, you're holding the story back. Let's move you from the limelight, and things like that. So that was one. My wife, or I let one of my friends read the first couple chapters. And he comes back to me and he's like, well, I got some problems with it. Okay, what are they? Well, you killed a character in like the 8th chapter. Okay. And, well, I didn't think that I liked that character. All right, well, he kind of run his course. I mean, his entire story was done. There was nothing else. I mean, to build on him, But it's not like he's not important to the rest of the story. I mean, it's not like he isn't affecting it at all. Well, I guess. I just don't like it.
When I was working on my big story, I got to a certain part, and there was a character that had... Okay, back when it was initially existed just as a role-playing game, this character was the first support NPC that I'd ever introduced into the game. The very first. So I'd had this character technically... sitting around in one form or another, going from story to story, whatever, campaign to campaign, for over 20 frickin' years. Almost 30 now that I think of it. No, it's 25, roughly. 24, 25 years. This is how long I'd had the character around. And I had to kill him to further the plot. I wrote the scene, and I looked at it, and I'm like, damn it. So I called a good friend. I try to call a good friend of mine. He doesn't answer. I call another good... And I finally get through to somebody, and I'm like... and I'm sitting there, wailing, so to speak, that I had to kill the character off. Damn it, this sucks. I was actually heartbroken over having to kill this character off. Well, in a manner of speaking, he pulls a Gandalf later, but that's beside the point. That's different.
I was reading an article in I think it was Game Informer or something that I ended up getting when I traded in my Xbox and got like I wound up. I was clever and I took advantage of some of their sales, and I got like $1,000 worth of credit out of my Xbox and my games, which was pretty amazing. But so I'm getting these magazines. I was reading it earlier, and one of the things that was funny, and it was from I mentioned Mass Effect a couple times. I don't know if you guys know much about that game, but the way they sort of built it was that the choices you make in the game sort of affect the way your story progresses. Mm-hmm. And some of those choices you have to make as the player are pretty big deals. And it's a very in-depth world. You get to know all these cultures and all, all this stuff, And so I was reading it, and they had this confessionals section where people were talking about, things that disturbed them playing video games. Mm-hmm. And when I had played Mass Effect 3 last year, the final one of that original series, there was one choice that I had to make, and I literally went to bed and had nightmares over it. And woke up thinking, did I do the wrong thing? Oh God, do I have an old save? What have I done? But I can't make the other choice. I can't do it. I can't go back. That kind of thing. And I'm reading, and like 4 out of the 8 that they had published in the magazine were people saying almost the exact same thing. I made a choice in Mass Effect, whatever, and I had nightmares. I had stressed out about it. It was crazy.
The punchline of that story that I started earlier, incidentally, is that the person I was talking to couldn't even conceptualize what I was talking to. I had to explain it to them time and time again. They're like, I don't see why you're bothered. You're just killing a character in a story.
Oh.
I'm like, no, after a while when you're writing these characters, especially when it's very character-driven, they become real to you in a manner of speaking.
Oh, yeah, very much so. I mean, they are people. When you get to know them this well, and you of course know. I mean, for me, there's always a small part of my own perspective in each character that gets sort of blown up into an entire person. Your
friends, your families, everyone you've ever met on the street. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, run through my own filter and, and sort of refined into this person, this character or whatever. And so, these are almost like real people, to the author, and sometimes to the reader, and sometimes to, everybody. So it does make a big difference. It is a big deal when you when you get to kill off a character that you really like, but having the courage to do it, is
and there's a certain level of anguish there. There's a certain level of anguish there for the person that's writing the story, and this is something that the readers miss. They just think, you killed my favorite character, so not like you. Don't you realize I did everything I could to try and save them? CPR didn't help. Deal with it.
Yeah.
This is a high fantasy campaign. We don't have defibrillators.
Yeah, exactly.
And lightning bolts will not work that way. I'm sorry.
And the raise dead spell doesn't function the way you think it does.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but you can't raise dead when all that is left is pulp.
Yeah.
There is no skeletal structure. What would be the point? Get over it.
I've had people do that in D&D games. They try to raise dead and resurrect. It's like, no, there's nothing left.
Yeah.
You can't cast raise dead on ash. No.
It's toothpaste.
Yeah.
They were eaten by the dragon and pooped out.